So the last time I made a video about this was back in the summer of 2022, I believe. And yeah, it doesn't seem like Nintendo has any plans on reviving F-Zero at all. And understandably so, because you look back at the F-Zero franchise, even though it's iconic, for the most part, it really didn't sell a lot for the most part. Like, I feel like the best selling F Zero game that we got came out back in 1990 on the SNES, and I believe we got an F Zero game on the N64 that did like over a mil. The SNES game did over like 2 mil in terms of sales, and I don't know. I read somewhere that GX didn't even crack like a mil in terms of sales, but a lot of people don't know too much about F Zero because, for the most part, it's pretty niche and hardcore gamers, specifically those who have been like, strong Nintendo fans. Um, they're the ones who had been wanting it to make a return for quite some time. And obviously, Nintendo has no interest in doing so. In fact, it's been over 20 years since we've gotten an F Zero game, and it doesn't look like we're going to get one for the Switch too. At least I'm hoping that's not the case. But I feel like an F Zero game, even though like F Zero for the most part it's been classified as like an arcade racer. I feel like it would still do big numbers if Nintendo released a fresh entry for like the Switch too. But the thing is, I don't think they need to do that because it seems like a lot of attention's being placed on the new Mario Kart game. That's $80, which a lot of people, myself included, feel is outrageous, but it is what it is. The cost of gaming is going up, and I guess people just have to accept that as a thing or whatever. And yeah, like, F Zero in general, I feel like a sequel to this game should have been made at least a decade ago. But, what's the point of trying to promote something that's very niche, that only appeals to a small percentage of the gaming community? And it's not like, we haven't seen other games like F Zero that's come out within the past decade or so. We got to see the Wipeout game that came out back in 2012, which I believe that was like a third party game that appeared on the PlayStation Vita. And then we got Fast Remix back in 2017, which appeared on the Switch console. In fact, I think it appeared on the same day that the Switch console had launched, and a lot of people had nothing but good things to say about it. So that tells me that the arcade, futuristic style of racing is it's still very popular in this day and age. But the thing is, you look at F Zero. F Zero is a racing game that has characters, and the only character that people like really know about when they think of F Zero off the top of their head is Captain Falcon. Now, outside of Captain Falcon, there's not a lot of characters that people know of. And what I mean by that, you have characters like James McCloud, Jodie Summer, Octoman, a lot of characters in the F Zero franchise that people, don't really give a crap about because F Zero's been irrelevant for so long. And I don't think it's one of those franchises that, I don't know. I just feel like the characters never really caught anyone's attention, or it never really clicked with casuals. And I feel like it just led to disinterest in the series altogether. But I do feel like it's one of those, like, F Zero is one of those franchises that probably just need a long, long, long break before it gets a new game, because you look at you look at Streets of Rage, and I know it's a different genre. It's, that's a beat 'em up, but Streets of Rage, the last game we had gotten before Streets of Rage 4 in 2020 was Streets of Rage 3. That came out in 1994, and then when we got Streets of Rage 4, um, that game ended up being the best-selling installment in the entire franchise. I feel like that game pretty much revived interest in the franchise. In fact, before it was released, like when it was announced, Streets of Rage 4 was actually trending on social media. It was trending on Twitter at the time. So I don't know. I feel like if a F Zero game was announced or if it was in the works or something like that, the same thing could happen where it would trend on social media and people would be excited for its release. But I feel like it would also be one of those things where people's expectations would be unreasonably high, and the finished product of the game is something that would fall below their expectations, or they'll just be happy that we're getting an F Zero game and it looks better than the last entries that we got. Either way, I feel like a F Zero game would be interesting on the Switch too, but it's a slim chance that that's going to happen because if Nintendo saw any value or any money to be made in F Zero, they probably would have bought it back like a long, long time ago, like for the Wii U or for the Switch console or what have you. But but yeah, I mean, as it currently stands, like F Zero is like a dead IP. Nintendo has no plans on bringing it back. Would I like to see Nintendo revive F Zero in the future? Absolutely, but the chances of it actually happening are less than likely.